Okay, Assalamualaikum dan selamat kembali ke FTV. Hari ni kita ada satu episod yang sangat special sebab korang selalu minta saya panggil orang untuk interview kan. So today kita ada possibly one of the most important person in the zero emission punya movement ni, electric car movement ni, is the president of ZEVA. ZEVA tu? First introduce yourself. What's your name? Yeah.
Terima kasih Tuan Haji Samsul. Nama saya Junaizi. Saya mewakili Zero Emission Vehicle Association, atau what we call, the short form of it is ZEVA lah. So ZEVA was formed on the 1st of December last year. We registered ourselves at the Registrar of Societies, and we've been operating since then lah. ZEVA ialah satu persatuan kenderaan beremisi sifar. Bermakna ialah satu persatuan yang menggabungkan semua pihak-pihak yang berkenaan dalam promote kenderaan beremisi sifar ini. The members are individuals representing organizations.
Okay.
Dia bukannya by person but by organization or by companies.
Right.
So the members currently are car manufacturers, car dealers, charge point operators, TNB is there also, and also even owners of EVs.
Right.
Pun ada di situ. Jadi we aspire to be the voice of EV di Malaysia ni. So bila kita jumpa dengan stakeholders, the government, some agencies or other people, other organisations, then we will be the voice of EV. Sebab kita merangkumi semua dalam ekosistem EV ni.
You mean EV or you mean zero emission?
I mean zero emission, sorry. Zero emission.
What's the definition of zero emission?
Zero emission is actually cars that have zero tailpipe emission. That is what we are saying.
Does that cover fuel cell cars because they have emission?
Yes, it covers fuel cell cars, but currently because fuel cell cars are not here yet,
right,
we are mostly now focusing on EVs, on battery EVs.
Right. What about cars? Some companies tengah develop alternative fuel, macam Porsche dia tengah buat alternative fuel using I don't know what, ethanol ke methanol ke. Does that tak terlibat dalam
no, kita tak terlibat. We are looking only at zero emission.
Kalau fuel cell?
Ada tailpipe.
Kalau fuel cell?
Fuel cell pun zero emission kan?
Dia ada keluar air.
Ada
emission lah.
Well,
that's the definition lah kan.
Yeah.
And also of course kalau cerita fuel cell, then a lot of the hydrogen, grey hydrogen kan. So how do you?
No, we at the moment our focus is really on battery EV, zero emission.
Battery EV
totally zero emission. That's what we're looking at.
Okay, so that's your definition.
I mean, when the time comes when there are more hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, and we'll consider our stand macam tu lah.
So the other thing is that sekarang ni kita kat Malaysia ni dah ada Malaysia Automotive Association, and we also have people yang represent the importers.
Betul.
So, kenapa perlu ada ZEVA lagi?
Sebab kita rasa yang situ individualistik, ya. Macam persatuan macam Pakima contohnya, dia mewakili pengimport kereta Bumi Putra sahaja. Dia tak tengok yang lain-lain lah, tapi tengok dia punya member sahaja. My Evoque dia cuma tengok pengguna sahaja.
Right.
Kan? So tak ada satu persatuan yang menggabungkan semua pemain-pemain EV ni ataupun zero emission vehicles ni dalam satu platform. So that is why we created this association to involve everyone in the EV ecosystem ni, in the zero emission ecosystem ni. So that the voice is stronger, so that the ideas that we want to put on the table is more inclusive, dan the government or whoever yang kita jumpa tu will be able to understand us better. And by understanding us better, looking at how it impacts each of the member punya organisation, then the decision can be made better lah in that sense. Jadi itu yang sebenarnya kita nak capai melalui the Zero Emission Vehicle Association ni.
Seems like you're doing quite basic work right now. So where, kalau you kata lah nak kena describe kat mana kita punya kedudukan sekarang in terms of our shift to zero energy punya vehicles ni?
We've just started sebenarnya kan. We've just started. I mean, let me rephrase that. We've not just started. We've started a long time ago, but only now we've got the push, because of certain things that are happening all over the world. The trend that we are looking at, where everybody's going to EVs. We're looking at also the government punya incentive sekarang ni pun dah ada. Jadi that is why the demand, and we look at the demand now outstripping supply for electric vehicles and zero emission vehicles. And jadi I think we are still on the journey, but a lot more needs to be done. We thank the government for coming up with the incentive, but we need more policies, more EV friendly policies sebenarnya daripada.
Okay, that nicely takes us to the next question. So you rasa pelepasan cukai ni, dia bagi 2 tahun untuk kereta CBU, 4 tahun untuk kereta CKD ni, how far does that go, you think, in terms of encouraging people?
Right, we think that it is good. It is good to have those tax breaks, but having it in a limited time, saya rasa it is counterproductive. Because to create the demand even more, the incentive must be there much longer. That's our stand at this point. The incentive must be there much longer, and the incentive must not stop there at the vehicles. It also has to include juga the charging infrastructure.
Yeah.
Sekarang ni charging infrastructure tak ada lagi insentif.
Ada.
Dah 2,500
2,500
itu sajalah. Tapi
okay, here's the thing. So memang 2,500, I rasa kita semua tengok macam it's only 2,500, right? But it's 2,500 that I tak nampak anybody taking advantage of.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that kenapa? Is it because it doesn't make sense right now, bilangan kereta kecil, so
yeah, that's part of it. That's why kata-kata more insentif macam tu perlu diadakan, perlu diperkenalkan oleh kerajaan. You got to look at some of the practices of other countries. Other countries insentif dia, you beli, kerajaan bagi cash kat dia. You beli kereta, let's say, I don't know, $30,000 car, the US government gives about, I think, 5,000 grant for each buyer.
Yeah.
So that's how they do it over there. That's how they encourage the adoption of EVs in their countries.
Well, kalau kita nak tengok example US tu lah kan, it seems that US pun bermasalah sebab dia pun tak ada clear policy.
Okay.
So the industry pun nampak macam at a loss, except for that one company lah, Tesla je yang memang dedicated. So incentive saja is much as 7,500 is a lot of money to give, but still it doesn't seem to be enough. Whereas kalau you tengok China, of course they give more incentive than the US in terms of tu. Sampai I think masa kita pergi China, pergi tengok Geely, this is 2016, and they showed us an M Grand. Okay. M Grand is one of the brand under Geely lah. Dulu dia ada nama Geely M Grand, but then they pushed that menjadi M Grand, jadi separate model, separate brand, and they had an electric car with range 350 km. This is 2016 tau. So 2016, 350 km, this is
quite impressive lah.
But before that, you only had the Leaf, yang first gen, and then you have the Zoe, semua. And then the price was 85,000 ringgit equivalent if you convert, right? But they said that this is harga post incentive. Pre-incentive price is about 110, I think, if I'm not mistaken lah. So they do give a lot in terms of incentives lah. But then again, the Chinese have a long-term vision of making their automotive industry the leader in terms of EV.
Yes.
Which they did quietly in the background, and one of the reasons why they were able to even at 100,000 was still cheap, because you couldn't get anything from the West with that kind of range at 120,000. So what we didn't realize at that point in time was that they were already running LFP batteries.
LFP.
We only heard about LFP in cars bila Tesla masuk, and it came out. And then baru story dia keluar, rupanya they've been working on that for 10 years, all the IP disputes semua dah, I mean, they've sorted it out like a few years. So they had it for 20 years, for a good 20 years, LFP in China, and had gone into cars. So I don't know lah, the incentive to me nampak macam sekarang ni orang marah pasal nampak macam untuk orang kaya je, just for the T20.
That's because the cars are not coming here. Where are the China-made cars here sekarang?
Macam mana dia nak masuk? How would they come in? This is the question yang ramai kawan-kawan kita pun tanya kan. Dia kata, kenapa bawa masuk kereta yang mahal-mahal aja?
Ya, betul.
So my answer is simple. Dia kata kalau you nak bawa masuk, let's say you tomorrow you manage to get BYD to give you the Dolphin, and you work it out and you can sell it for 80,000. Let's say lah. Kan? So now bila the car price goes down to 80,000, the only problem that's left, there are two big problems lah, everybody knows and halang EV adoption is charging facility and price. That's the two biggest thing lah. So now you eliminate price problem. Charging tak ada lagi. So now you have a situation where right now as we're talking, EV hanya boleh digunakan sebagai kereta kedua. Because charging infrastructure tak banyak lagi. So if you just nak guna dalam town, fine. Sekali-sekali nak jalan jauh-jauh as a eco warrior, boleh lah you sanggup go through all the difficulty. So realistically it's only a second car option. Right now lowest price 150,000. So if your second car budget is 150,000, then yes, you're in the market for EV. Otherwise you're not. Right? So that's a small number of people. It goes down to 80,000, suddenly that volume may be double or triple. Right? So now you can sell 5,000-6,000 cars a year. Just one model maybe, right? So then problem dia lah. Masalahnya you nak do this, macam mana you nak support dengan infrastructure? Tak ada.
I think there is a misnomer sikit kat situ. Sebab mostly people akan charge kat rumah.
I agree.
People akan charge kat rumah.
I agree.
Most of the time, we have done a study and looking at the time, 70-80% will charge kat rumah.
I agree. Cuma if it becomes more affordable at 80,000, let's say like 80,000, some people will be tempted to try this as their primary car. Then it becomes difficult. If it's your second car, then it's fine. Memang you can charge kat rumah je. Setahun maybe you pergi Penang 2 kali, then there's 2 kali itulah you pergi charge kat Bukit Gantang or whatever lah kan. But I think you charge kat rumah. But once people start taking this as their primary car, then charging tak ada, then it becomes. That's why I'm just saying like why companies like Proton and Pro2 cakap 2027 is because when I bring out the car, there's no infrastructure. I nak buat macam mana ni kan? For early adopters, it's okay. They are willing to suffer for the cost. But when it goes down to mass,
travelling dekat Malaysia ni pun, I mean, memanglah sekarang ni talking about infrastructure, right? Most of the charges yang ada pun is along the major highways lah. You know, yang the trunk roads macam or the secondary highways, I think there's still room for improvement in those areas. But the good thing is banyak company, this charge point operator companies ni, they acknowledge that situation, and they are now coming up with a plan to install more chargers in these locations. Even TMB also, you know, have been talking to highway concessionaires, you know, to also install their own charger network of chargers dekat highways and also the trunk roads.
That's interesting.
So hopefully the situation will be better, you know, until now and maybe 5-6 years down the road.
Macam mana dia orang punya planning tu berasaskan apa? What is the adoption rate that they're looking at in let's say 5, 10, 15 years?
Right. So they're looking at the demand sekarang ni. Okay, they I mean, and the supply also of the cars. So when we know that car manufacturers are bringing in the cars, meaning there will be volume. You know, sooner or later there will be volume. So dia orang nampak benda tu. Dia orang nampak the potential of utilization of the chargers tu is going to increase. You know, year on year from now onwards. Jadi from there yang diorang akan pasang dan also expand their network of chargers lah.
Do they have like an idea of in terms of adoption rate in 5 years time, how many percent? Because I mean right now I pun yang excited about this one. I cannot see anything happening sebab most OEM tengok kita as secondary market and
but right now
can't be bothered to give us EVs lah.
Right now you know already, right? Hyundai nak jual dia punya Kona, it's outstripping supply. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
So
you cannot get the cars anyway. So
correct.
If
But they are coming. But I'm sure once you put in for OEMs, once you put in deposit, they have to bring in the cars. Whether now or later, they have to bring in the cars. So the demand is also supply. From there we know already.
But there's a fixed number that they can bring in. But there's a fixed number that they can offer. Macam BMW, I cakap dengan Sashi, I tanya dia, how many cars are you bringing in this year? Dia cakap 200, 250 max. So I tanya dia, is that the number of cars you think you can sell, or that's the number of cars you can get? That's all I can get.
Betul.
So it doesn't matter how many thousands of people come and put in deposit, you can't get the cars.
Betul, but once you put in deposit, you have to bring in the car anyway, either now or later, kan?
Well, okay,
Either now or later. So
let's look at the.
So for that matter, we have to install the chargers, because when the cars come, whenever that is, then the chargers are ready to be there. So it's a chicken egg situation again.
Betul lah.
Tapi because of the encouraging demand sekarang ni, that's why we all these players actually.
What's the ratio that they think is good for car to charger ratio?
For me, I think it's 1 charger to 10 cars, which would be good.
You're talking about high speed charger ataupun high speed and low speed combination?
I'm talking about the high speed chargers.
So 1 to 10 lah.
Yeah.
So what
DC
about
fast chargers?
What about yang AC chargers? Is that should be in the mix? Macam mana? How should we usually?
I would rather, as far as I'm concerned lah, I mean, we separate the AC chargers, the slow chargers, and the fast chargers.
Okay.
The slow chargers ni, they are at dekat more like destination chargers lah.
Yes.
Kan?
Yes.
We put it in shopping centres, in parking lots.
Yes.
So they are not really the utilization rate tu has to be treated differently compared to the DC fast chargers. So that's the first difference. The second difference is that the cost to put in AC chargers is lower, cheaper.
Much lower.
Kan, cheaper. Jadi the capital to yang the concern of the CPOs ni is the capital to put up DC fast chargers, where when they put in 50, 60, 80,000 per charger, and then they need to recoup that's why utilization rate too is very important, and that's where the ratio is very important. So that's what
for AC charger you tak ada numbers.
For AC charger
You think that's not important because they can just sort out among themselves harga dia rendah.
Correct.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
Okay. So talking about charger ni, bila kita tengok chargers yang ada sekarang kat tepi highway, semua orang kena charge, tak ada jual kilowatt kan, kena charge cukup masa.
Betul.
And that has come into criticism lah, kan?
Betul.
What's ZEVA punya thoughts on that?
Right, we just had a meeting the other day among the members, and we think that EV users must be given a choice to use either kilowatt hour or time. But right now, for the CPOs to sell their service using per kilowatt hour is not possible because of regulation. ST tak benarkan kita jual electricity per kilowatt hour unless we have a license.
Yes.
We get a license from ST. But as far as ZEVA is concerned, we think we have to follow what in the UK are doing. We have to follow what Singapore is doing. Provide the choice to consumers.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's why we are also talking to few parties already. The other day, we spoke to a government agency, and they support us also to go towards per kilowatt hour punya charging, and advise us to speak to ST lah.
Right.
So we're going to approach ST soon lah.
Okay. So in my mind, I rasa untuk help the charging industry and everybody to plan better, kita perlu ada tarik akhir penjualan kereta yang mencemarkan ni.
Okay.
Because then katalah for example, if we say 2040 last date, so we know that at the very latest by 2040, let's say our projection for TIV masa tu 700,000. Let's say for example 700,000. So for sure in 2040 700,000 EVs akan masuk, and from there you can just plug in your business model, whatever, what the adoption curve is like, and then it's easier for everybody to plan. Do you agree that it should be set?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. In fact, when we speak to car manufacturers, they want that commitment from the country, because these car manufacturers, they see that as the major reason why they should come here.
Yes.
And market their cars, market their EV products.
Yes.
Without that,
susah.
diorang kata, tak sure lah. Tak nampak where this country is heading when it comes to EV adoption or when it comes to zero carbon punya agenda lah. We need that commitment from the government to declare, and then only all these car manufacturers will come here.
Any thoughts your members on bila tarikh itu?
Itulah, ada yang mention hoping 2040, ada yang kata 2035. Tapi when we spoke to certain government agencies, they said that as early as 2050.
As early as 2050.
As early as 2050. But brother, it won't be.
This is Paris Accord punya last date lah basically.
No, maknanya it won't be there. In 2050, only in 2050 onwards. It will be there only 2050 onwards. That's the feedback ataupun the apa ni yang kita dapat daripada government kan, daripada kerajaan.
That feels rather late.
Itulah, tapi that's what they're saying now lah.
I wonder who's advising them because I think last year bila Petronas launch dengan punya e-fluids.
Okay.
They had a projection, which I don't know, dia ambil siapa punya lah, siapa punya projection. They had a projection where light commercial vehicle, if I'm not mistaken, it's by 2040, it's already like 70-80% for LCV. For HGV, about 50%.
Okay.
And for private cars pun I think about 50%. And I agree lah, memang LCV will more likely be the, if it's done properly lah.
But really, we right now there's a problem because we don't see the light commercial vehicles, electric vehicles, light commercial vehicles ada lagi kat sini sekarang.
So
how do we expect in 10 years, 20 years time they're going to be, macam you kata lah, the volume is there. Sekarang ni pun tak ada.
What is the limitation? Sekarang ni persoalannya ialah kenapa tak ada. And I cakap dengan somebody and dia kata they cannot get permission to bring in LCV.
Really?
We might have to cut this out, but it's Petra cakap. So saya cakap, kenapa you all tak masuk? Tak boleh, dia kata. We're not allowed to bring in.
Kenapa tak boleh
Itu cerita dia lah. Miti ke apa ke, we don't know what the story is kat situ. Because benda ni ada cakap kat ramai orang dah. Ada cakap kat companies yang memang ada macam Ford ke dia EV vans semua cakap, if you look at this, the sector yang akan paling cepat adopt is the commercial sector, right? Because they're not buying by emotion. They're just looking at the numbers. Right? You look at it and say, satu, you boleh control cost. Dua, you tak payah orang tipu minyak lah, curi minyak lah, apa, you pasang semua kau. Kan? So, the moment you bawa masuk je, no brainer. Amazon order 100,000, it's no brainer. Kan?
Exactly.
So again, kat situ kita nampak macam if the government tak ada clear direction, and it shows in things like this, where you tak tahu sektor mana you nak push dulu pun. Right? Because LCV sector, the charging takes care of itself. You never have to worry about that pun. Right? They don't install for themselves.
Betul. Exactly. So we feel lah. I mean, even the association also, we want to work in that field also, in the commercial punya vehicle punya areas. That's why some of our members are actually EV bus punya manufacturers. So they are there also. So we also address some of the concerns of those parties lah. And the association will be bringing up this matter to relevant authorities.
Okay. So as your position is like as the only advocacy group lah right now kan, for zero emission, what kind of maklumat ataupun research yang you need to do and share with the government to help them? Because clearly they're not sure what to do. Where the failure lies, I don't know, but they seem to be very unclear about what to do. So what do you think are the sort of information that the government needs to help formulate?
Okay, satu is the issues that we face in the EV ecosystem lah. Okay, satu is maklumat mengenai charging infrastructure is one, where we, as you rightly pointed out, tak cukup. So these are the things that kita akan bagi tahu kat government. Right now we only have like 17 only DC fast chargers all over the country. Kan? And maybe we have 300 300 over AC charges sekarang ni. Tapi it's not growing. It's not growing. So we need people to start to I mean the CPOs to start to that's why we have the CPO team, CPO punya representation bukan dekat situ. So we can provide the numbers to the government to tell the government that this is the current state of situation. So we need to once we have the benchmark sekarang ni, then we need to tambah and put the target and tambah lah. That's number one lah. And then yang keduanya is we want to also provide the government with the number of EVs, the collective number of EVs yang ada kat Malaysia. Tak kira lah dia.
They should know. The GPG registers.
Yeah, but betul. But we also want to be macam MAA. MAA sometimes comes out with the figures, right? So we want to focus on the figures for EVs.
Right.
Yeah. So I think for a start,
seems quite scary that the government needs to be told how many EVs are in the country. I mean, they're the ones charging the taxes on EV. They should know exactly how many cars.
That's true.
But you're right. It does seem like lagi.
So, but these are the two. We all start with these two figures. Pasal two maklumat ni dulu lah.
Do you think, okay, so this is where I'm coming from lah. I've been asking the government for energy roadmap since KJ's cousin was Minister of Environment, 2005, 2006 itulah. I've been asking for energy roadmap. Even as far back as then, kita ada energy roadmap, but only for power generation and I think industrial, commercial. Well, it includes only that, industrial, commercial, domestic, itu je. There is no energy roadmap that includes the transport sector. So, in my mind, if you're not thinking about the energy roadmap, that means you're not thinking about the cost and advantages of going green, of using renewable. And until you see the actual cost benefit of going renewable, of course the government is not going to act, but they don't see the benefit.
Yeah, but the roadmap probably to some extent ada dalam low carbon mobility blueprint for
but
the
it
transport.
says how much you want to reduce.
Correct.
Right? But I think what they need to do is say, okay, this is how many terajoule we're using right now, whatever it is, and in 2050, what is that going to be like? And what's the mix going to be like then? And what would be the cost if you do this, A, B, C, what all the other options? Until you do that, macam mana kita nak nampak the benefit, right?
Setuju.
So I think that's something maybe
ZEVA can take up.
I tried to calculate, but it's just too difficult. I don't know how to do it. And so if you have, I think you should help them in that sense. Because to me, kadang-kadang kawan-kawan tanya, siapa yang nak beli EV ni? Dia kata mahal. I cakap pada orang, EV ni sebenarnya kalau betul-betul insentif pun tak payah. Because it's like a smartphone. You tengok aja you nak, tak payah cerita banyak. You tengok aja you nak, so you tak nak bawa aja kan. That's why you cerita macam-macam.
Tapi that's the thing lah, the awareness of EV punya teknologi and what comes with it, what comes in the EV kan, orang banyak tak tahu lah.
That's true, because you tak nak tengok. Dan sebelum ni, the only EV yang kita ada was the first gen Nissan Leaf, which was absolutely useless. You know, the Renault Zoe okay sikit, the second gen Nissan Leaf okay. So kalau you base your experience on those cars, you tak nak EV kan. So people will want EV not because it saves the environment. People will want EV because it's actually cheaper to own and run.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, sebenarnya when we move to renewable energy, the benefit is just so clear. It's actually cheaper. Until the government sees that, they won't move. I think the European dah ada kira, dah congak. When you start congak, kita actually this makes sense.
Jadi dalam LCMD pun ada apa nama ni, cadangan untuk ubah kerajaan punya fleet.
Betul.
It's in there, you know. Tapi itulah.
You must show them the numbers. So when you convert the fleet, what is the savings?
Yes.
Here's the thing. Okay, sekarang ni, one of the things that I say to my readers, my viewers is this. Sekarang ni, the government seems to think that the shift is difficult, maybe for political reasons. So upheaval, Petronas, blah blah blah. People might get angry at us. But sebenarnya, if you frame it correctly, if you sell the story correctly, people would be in uproar that the government is not pushing this faster, because this actually saves money, right? You are denying us that.
Betul.
So I think the framing has to be correct. Like once you show the money benefit, and it's a no-brainer.
Betul. But we've done the studies. Memang kalau dari segi comparing with the fuel cost sekarang ni dengan the charging cost guna electricity tariff kita, it's cheaper to run the EV.
Betul, of course.
You know,
Cuma on a national scale, that energy mix tu, the energy usage, let's say even if we maintain the current energy mix lah,
right,
60% hydrocarbon, whatever like this that we design, we're going to 70% hydrocarbon, right? We're going to 30% renewable by 2025, right? 2030. So let's say like we look at that lah. Just at that aja pun, there is a very real if the adoption rate is fast, there is a very real possibility that the total energy usage drops because EVs are more energy efficient.
Yeah, betul.
Right?
Betul.
So as a whole, the energy bill of the country will shrink.
Exactly.
So somebody needs to do that tabulation and show to the government.
Betul.
And the other thing is that it helps them solve another problem that they don't want to solve. Subsidy.
Betul.
As more people move to EV, and less subsidy.
Betul.
So can we start showing some of the numbers so I boleh jaja nombor-nombor ni boleh tak?
Boleh. We'll work on it. You know, talking about subsidy tu kan, as more and more people convert to EVs, convert their cars to EVs, then there will be less subsidy lah the government bagi kan. But that subsidy yang government tak bagi tu, kita sepatutnya boleh digunakan untuk tambah infrastructure charging infrastructure lah.
Well, to me,
that is one benefit.
The plus point of EV is that the government doesn't even have to do that actually. They don't even have to spend money on infrastructure because that infrastructure pays for itself.
Yeah.
And kalau you tak percaya, I just point to Tesla supercharger network. They started that 5, 6, 7 years ago when they had like they were only selling Model S and Model
Y.
Model X.
Model X, yeah.
And those are small volume cars, and they were building superchargers like nobody's business, right? You thinking, how is this going to work? Right? Clearly, as I say to car companies sekarang masih lagi ingat, I don't want to build supercharger, it's not my. So I tanya dia orang, show me one car company that's more valuable than an oil company. Tak ada, right? So now is your opportunity to sell energy every day to every single one of your buyer.
Yeah.
You tak nak ke?
Yeah.
You tak nak tak apalah. And let the oil company continue lah with the many ways, right? But it's so simple.
Yeah.
Maybe people tak nampak benda tu is because they are focused on their core business. Dia tak nampak the energy macam mana ke. They don't know what the margins are. And I also don't know what the margins are. But clearly Mr. Musk understands and decides that you have to. And also kita tak tahu dia punya charger tu apa dia punya cost, because they make their own chargers, right?
Yeah, betul.
And when you look at their punya charger, to me lah, Tesla when they buat sesuatu, they're trying to say something. The charger ni rupa macam mana? The charging tower dia. Ada lubang nak.
Ada lubang.
Why?
I don't know, ventilation, make it cooler.
Maybe, possibly, but it says that there's nothing there.
Okay,
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
But when you look at other people punya charging tower, semua solid block and there's so macam-macam benda dalam tu. It's penuh.
Yeah.
Kenapa dia tak ada apa-apa dalam tu?
Yeah. And the output of Tesla supercharger lagi tinggi.
So high. So kenapa tak ada apa-apa dalam tu? Are they doing all their conversion at a super converter kat belakang and this is just pipelines?
Maybe.
Because you're doing blocks of
I don't know.
250 kat sini.
Yeah.
Dia buat blok 38 megawatt, 10 megawatt kat belakang, tembak pipe aja.
Yeah.
In my mind I tengok tu, that's it. Dia tak pernah buat benda yang tak ada maksud tau. Kalau you tengok, kenapa dia ada lubang? He's trying to tell you. There's nothing in here. Semua simpan kat belakang. And you buat individually mahal lah.
Maybe.
Itu what they're doing. Because it doesn't make sense in any other way.
Maybe.
Otherwise, how are they able to do this? And Volkswagen with 2 billion tak boleh nak match dia.
Yeah.
Right? They will electrify America. So that's something yang okay. Going on this charging lah, and kereta elektrik ni. So like you say just now, there's a big burden, or at least people think lah that there's going to be a big burden on the grid, right? do you think that will be a bit, because I dah tanya TNB and dah dapat jawapan, to them dia kata whatever adoption rate, given whatever kita punya current planning, it shouldn't be a problem. Up to 2050 ke 2070 it shouldn't be a problem. But clearly something needs to happen moving further forward to the electricity industry. But what are the things that?
But right now, as you apa nama ni, as you know lah probably that the demand for electricity is tapering down.
Yes.
You know, tak serancak dulu zaman-zaman 90-an or early 2000, where the demand is like
the growth is
double digit, you know,
right.
times. But now it's going to about 4% growth, 2% growth, you know, and that's the situation kat Malaysia ni lah. Itu dari segi demand, and then dari segi generation capacity pula, you know, right now they are close to 40% excess.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. Jadi when you say whether it's going to apa tu affect our generation kat sini or electricity punya supply kat sini, I don't think so. But when it comes to installing the chargers, we install the chargers dekat the distribution network. So and it's all like location specific. So bila kita nak pasang charger tu, kita kena tengok situasi supply dekat kawasan berkenaan in the distribution network.
Okay.
So kena tengok juga katalah in that kawasan perumahan, okay, and then coming from one substation. And that substation ada transformer.
Right.
Jadi kita tengoklah transformer punya loading.
Right.
How is the situation kat situ? Kalau misalnya kata it's already 80% 70% utilized, then maybe putting up the charger is not suitable.
Right.
So we need to upgrade the station.
Right.
But whatever it is, it's not a problem pun, because if you choose the location, you see the supply situation there. If it's good, then terus pasang. If it's not good, then TNB will improve the situation kat situ. Put up another substation ke, atau pull another cable from another source ke, to make it viable for us to pasang the charger.
Okay, what sort of information is needed by whoever yang kena buat benda ni lah kan? In terms of planning untuk benda ni, what sort of information do you need?
Oh, you need the load of the charger.
Okay, the load of the charger, okay lah, but like distribution of cars, what kind of information that will help TNB? Because TNB, yalah, I mean, you beritahu kat dia you nak banyak ni, dia tahulah nak pasang kabel besar mana ke transformer besar mana kan?
Exactly, yeah.
So, but what are the data that they need to plan this? Because right now, when you look at residential areas, like say for example yang landed, it's much lower density than say Bangsa South.
Okay.
Right? So clearly you're gonna have to work something different lah kat situ dengan yang kat sini, kan, moving forward. So you need like to know registration ke, how do you then of EVs kat situ ke, so that because then the apartments also will need to install chargers dekat dia punya
parking lots kan?
Parking lots semua.
Yeah, I mean you need to know the demand lah, the overall demand of that installation. So actually as far as TNB is concerned, dia orang terima application untuk supply. Yang perlu menentukan whether nak pasang atau tidak is CPOs. In the case of apartment, the JMB jugalah kena come up with the demand. How many installation you want to pasang kat situ? So with that installation, what TNB wants to know is of course lah, yang decide nak pasang the charger tu will be the CPO, and they might need the number of cars yang ada kat situ yang gunakan the charger tu. So but as far as TNB is concerned, dia akan tengok the application. When application, how many installation you want to pasang. For each installation, what is the demand? What is the maximum demand yang you akan gunakan daripada TNB? So from there yang akan design dan pasang the.
Should there be like a more direct reporting for the data to TNB? Because right now they are the ones who own and operate the grid.
Yes.
Should there be direct reporting to TNB in terms of monthly registration? Mana benda-benda ni pergi to help TNB plan.
Yes.
Before kita tak nak bila CPO datang, bila orang minta, and then baru masa tu baru nak, tak adalah.
Betul. I mean, that would be a good information for the good data for us to do the planning. Useful also, and nak upgrade ke senang nanti dengan data tu, senang nanti kita nak plan for upgrading. Yes, definitely.
So what about this charging people by kilowatt and not kilowatt ni? Should it be made more easy? What should happen?
Okay. Yes, like we mentioned earlier, this kilowatt charging by the kilowatt hour ni, we should make it as an option for the EV users to choose, either want to go by minute or by the kilowatt hour. And we think that the government should open the option to CPOs to offer selling or the service of charging ni by the kilowatt hour. CPOs kalau nak pursue, you can always put in your application for a license to sell by the kilowatt hour lah. I think that's not an issue sebenarnya. Just put up the application and go through the process of the application. At the same time, ZEVA can also approach the government to try to influence them to make it easy lah, to facilitate the whole process.
What about in terms of town planning?
Okay.
Kita tak ada any kind of rules or laws yang nak compel developer to make
right.
So
at the same time, good point. We are going to also talk to KPKT, Jam Perumahan, untuk masukkan requirements for new development to have to be EV charging ready, to charging infrastructure ready. So let's say for example a house, this developer buat satu taman, and all the house ada kat situ, and then we want the KPKT to include in the condition of that development for the houses to be EV charging ready.
Okay.
So that when the owner of the house buys, when the buyer of the house has an EV, then dia boleh straight away nak pasang dia charger kat rumah, straight away boleh pasang charger kat rumah. Tak payah nak buat hack lagi.
Is that like a lot of thing yang kena buat bagi dia like a house to be EV ready?
Just the wiring saja. Just the wiring, and then sampai ke satu, I don't know, maybe you need for the wire, for the cable kat rumah ni untuk charging ni depends on whether single phase or three phase.
Okay.
So you have either 16 amps current or 32 amps current kan.
Okay.
So for a single phase, for example, have a dedicated 32 amps punya supply to one plug point lah.
Right. Just kat DB box tu, you just design it so that ada satu high power.
And then we want it to be EV ready because we don't want people to have the inconvenience of having to hack the house after they move in, and then they decide to put a
Adakah perlu tambah the existing supply limit to the house? I don't know what is the usual domestic berapa? 60
63.
About 60. Okay. Kena tambah ke? Perlu tambah ke rasanya?
Selalunya tak perlu. Kalau rumah tu tak ada major macam aircon kan, dia pakai normal appliances, kipas is very small, heater is only variable time saja. Selalunya under normal circumstances tak perlu tambah the capacity for the house lah.
Okay. Now the other thing is that kita punya electricity rate kat rumah dia tak ada peak or off peak, dia ada band.
Betul.
Is that something yang kena ubah tidak? Because as we all know, banyak electricity is wasted at night.
Yes. Peak and off peak will be enabler for EV juga. We will look at it. Sebab at night when the load is low, that's when the best time to charge the cars. And it will be more more suitable because loads are low during that time, kan? Orang tak pakai, jadi kereta pun tak digunakan masa tu. Jadi having a lower rate, tariff rate at night as an off-peak punya tariff will facilitate the adoption of EVs.
You think how quickly should that happen? Should the government start looking at that now?
Yes. Saya dipahamkan TMB pun dah ada proposal
I see.
kerajaan.
Oh, so dah ready.
Cuma now we are waiting for the government to just give the go ahead sajalah.
I see.
But we need the smart meters to do that. That's why
We
TMB.
already have smart meter kan banyak orang ada.
Yeah.
So takkan meter baru yang dah ada smart meter dah okey dah lah.
Boleh.
Okay.
Smart meter will facilitate the TOU, we call it TOU lah, time of use punya tarif.
Right. And if you already have like this peak and off peak, should the ban still be in place?
The ban?
Kan dia ada usage ban kan?
Yeah. No, I mean definitely we will have to design a new tariff ban lah.
Okay.
New tariff ban. Definitely TMB will be able. We need to do that because bila you guna time of use tariff ni, the tariff during time of use is different from during the day, kan?
Right.
So there will be an adjustment of the current tariff rates yang kita guna sekarang lah. Definitely.
Because you want to encourage that high usage masa off peak for so then there might be different way of looking at it lah. And of course the other question yang orang tanya, because ada ban ni nak ada second meter lah. You masuk second meter duduk kat ground floor kan. You masuk meter ni dah tingkat 3 mahal sikit.
No. I don't think that TMB is going to do that because sometimes can be subject to abuse juga kan. I mean you have a meter with certain tariff and then semua meter yang semua perkataan yang consume high electricity ni pergi ke meter yang tarif dia rendah ni. Tak nak lah macam tu kan.
No, it should be the same tariffs working. Just that macam sekarang kita ada ban kan. So kalau you start second, I minta second meter and I charge kereta I kat sini, my kereta start kat first band dulu. So it may never go beyond the second band for me for the metering. So I get cheap electricity for my car. It's here.
Betul. But that doesn't stop you to also charge from the second meter, the first meter tadi kan. Not charge, gunakan other appliances on the first meter tadi kan.
Obviously that's going to happen lah. Second meter kita akan perhati tengok, okay ni boleh tembak ni aircon lagi kat sini dah lagi kan. Daripada ni dah nak masuk band 4 kan. Okay, kita tolak kat sini dulu. Of course that will happen lah. So I understand why TMB don't want to do that lah. Okay, so ada benda yang selalunya orang cakap bila kita cerita pasal kereta elektrik ni. Dia kata ini konspirasi barat ni nak bunuh kita industri oil and gas. So will it actually kill Petronas? Petronas pun dah keluar iklan. Saya tengok itu dekat highway.
Oh, ada?
Kalau you nak pergi Sebenarnya on Max, there's a big billboard which came up like 2 weeks before puasa ke 3 minggu sebelum puasa, which says we don't just sell petrol, we now sell, which to me is a lobbying billboard lah kan. What else are you putting there? Nak cerita apa kan? I beli betul you. So that's clearly a lobbying billboard lah. So I'm sure they want to come into this business also, right? So but realistically, bila semua orang move to EVs, will there still be use for the black hole?
No, I mean we think that EVs and moving to electric mobility will not bury ataupun will not affect Petronas lah as oil and gas company, because petroleum or diesel for that matter, or transport supply to transport industry ni is only one industry. There are other industries yang menggunakan a lot of byproducts from petroleum sebenarnya.
Right.
Plastic industry, there's a lot that use byproducts from petroleum. Fertilizer also use a lot of it. Dia tidak akan bury that business.
Slow down sikit lah.
Slow sikit tapi taklah sampai mati lah.
Tapi I rasa I tak risau sangat lah. Dia pun ramai bijak pandai kat situ kan. They figure out what to do, right? I mean as they
and they also now moving towards other sources of energy, not only the black hole kan. They also now they have a new energy division sekarang dekat sana to look for other opportunities.
They've had the solar panel picture on their website for at least a year and a half. Energy itu kan. And but the other thing yang setengah orang cakap lah, dia kata, ya ke kereta elektrik ni bersih?
Okay.
Masih lagi pakai arang batu,
Okay.
turun jana kuasa, so this macam whitewashing,
Yeah,
greenwashing.
Greenwashing lah they call it. Tetapi betul, memang certain people fikir macam tu, tetapi we have to do what we can do lah. We have to do what we can do. At the moment, to convert ataupun to stop the coal power plants kat Malaysia ni abruptly macam tu is impossible. It takes time because we need to build more power plant, more solar plants. We need to build more hydro plants yang lebih environmental friendly kan. Tapi to stop cepat-cepat dan macam tu memang impossible.
Even nobody wants it to happen like that anyway.
Yeah. So that's why it has to be gradual. But for things yang kita boleh buat sekarang, let's say if we want to save the environment by replacing our cars, our ICE cars with EVs, and we can do that, we can afford it. Why don't we do it now? Why don't we do it now? I mean, why wait when things are totally green, baru kita nak tukar. I think that's not the way lah. I mean, kalau kita dah ada means to do it, if we have and we feel responsible for the environment, let's do it.
Some countries I tengok the numbers that they can say lah. For example, kat US, some of the dirtiest countries are where they are still having coal lah. South Carolina, macam tu lah. Virginia, banyak coal mine lagi. Where dia punya energy mix is I think even worse than us lah. In terms of dia punya coal.
Lagi banyak lah.
Lagi banyak daripada kita lah. Even then, I tengok some of the numbers seems to indicate that by the 7th year or something like that, then EV dah memang dah boleh balik become dah basically they become clean lah after the 7th year lah, even with very dirty energy, because satu they more energy efficient lah. So is there a number that we can, benda-benda kadang-kadang is some kind of numbers yang kita kena sebut, senang orang nak ingat.
Betul. I think those are the things that we need to work on lah. InsyaAllah lah, ZEVA will take up the ideas and some of the things that you mentioned. We will take them up and also work together with the industry players, the EV ecosystem ni, and come up with all those figures yang senang orang nak ingat, yang kita boleh bawa mana-mana, boleh jumpa kerajaan, boleh jumpa all these agencies, and so that the convincing to become more credible and more stronger lah kan.
We need to arm our army with information. So the reason I say this because kita punya channel, kita try to make our viewers as advocates.
Betul.
And they will raise the issue. Kata, but berapa orang, susah lah get every kita tak. You just need 5% of the population to be active, then it becomes a national agenda. Masalahnya the peluru yang nak bagi kat dia orang sekarang tak power lah.
Betul.
So kita need the new ammunition punya provider, maybe ZEVA can come up with some nice numbers.
Boleh, insyaAllah. We will work on it.
I'm happy to come here and help you do some crunching if you have some, I'm happy
boleh,
to come and
we'll invite you. One of the workshops, nanti we'll invite you, and then you can be part of our members. In fact, why don't you join us as a member?
How do I do that?
We'll give you the link. Aisyah is our executive secretary of ZEVA. And then we'll adopt you as our member. And in fact, I want to also invite your viewers who have very strong feeling about EVs or zero emission vehicles, representing an organization that believes in it and wants to join us in this journey. Come, let's join ZEVA, and together we make things happen for
they have been asking for templates. So I cakap ada orang, go find out what your MP, your DUN punya email. Better still, not email, cari alamat dia punya pusat perkhidmatan dia. Send a physical mail telling you want this. Because politicians are only ever scared of banyak orang tulis kau komplain kat dia, and they will like, what?
flooding semua.
All you need is 50 letters cukup dah. 50 surat.
Terpedih sama.
Minta EV kan, marah kita tak bagi EV. That will get them going lah. So my hope is ZEVA will provide the correct perspective. I think that's what's lacking right now. The government needs to be pointed in the right direction so they can see it correctly.
That is why we every element of the ecosystem is there in ZEVA. We have the users, we have the suppliers, we have the charge point operators, we have the energy supplier pun kat situ, you know. So that's why if anybody have the same interest and wanting to join us in this journey, come join ZEVA.
Yes. So the other thing that I'm pushing right now is ESG. Because for the longest time, I think one of the difficulty is trying to incorporate other than actual direct costs into the bottom line of companies. Environmental cost, how do you incorporate that into the social cost? But with ESG, there is now a way to do it. Right? The scoring, and I think that is a very, very important thing that we need to adopt quickly. But then senang everybody nampak the cost of going not green or staying dirty, you know.
Betul.
And that just makes complete sense. Let's push for that.
Betul.
Okay, that's a fantastic interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time also.
Hopefully we will be able to see some movement.
InsyaAllah.
And be able to meet up with you guys again and see what we can.
Boleh. We'll invite you in our next workshop or next activity dengan ZEVA lah. If you're free, you can always join us and be part of the effort lah.
Very happy to do that. Okay guys, thank you very much. Sampai situ je video kita hari ni. Kalau boleh, tolong tekan butang like dan kongsi dengan kawan-kawan. Ni ZEVA ada website?
Ada.
So we'll put a link kat bawah ni. Korang pergi tengok lah ada apa-apa maklumat kat situ ke. Kan nak jadi member pun ada kat situ ke link.
Boleh. Kita boleh masuk juga.
Nanti ada link kat bawah, you all click and kita ramai-ramai masuk and we help this movement lah. Because at the end of the day, the environment movement ni nak jadi green ni sebenarnya it's to make it more efficient. The more efficient something is, the cheaper it becomes and it's a less cost on us. Sebenarnya the green movement ultimately sebenarnya is about efficiency. Anything that's more efficient is going to be cheaper and that's going to benefit everybody. And on top of that, it will make our resources last longer. Or maybe if we are lucky, everybody starts figuring out how to do solar 100%, then we become energy. To me lah, I think the country needs to really look into renewable because that gives us energy independence. Right? You can't stop the sun, right? You perang apa pun, the sun is still going to be there.
But we need a battery also lah.
Battery.
Malam tak ada.
Battery kena ada lah. Okay. So tekan butang subscribe lah. Beramai tak subscribe lagi ni, dan tekan butang loceng supaya dapat makluman bila kita mana video terbaru. Mandu Malaysia, mana berhemah. Kita jumpa lagi insyaAllah.
InsyaAllah. Terima kasih.